Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Torah studies class for the Torah portion of Bamidbar. In 1986, the Levite Rebbe started distributing dollar bills that would be given out for tzedakah. Every Sunday, thousands of people would line up to be able to receive the dollar from the Rebbe, to be able to meet the Rebbe, and to be able to ask the Rebbe for a bracha. This is a picture of me receiving one such dollar on a Sunday. Now, the story is told that there was an elderly woman who, after being on her feet in line for many, many hours, approached the Rebbe and said, "I don't understand, right? You're older than me. How are you able to stand for so many hours on your feet, hours on end, distributing dollars to people?" The Rebbe responded that every soul is a diamond. Can one grow tired of counting diamonds? Right? This is a beautiful exchange between the Rebbe and this woman, but it really reflects, right, the way that counting can be a profound expression of love. And we see that in this week's Torah portion, the Torah portion of Bamidbar, the book of Bamidbar, which in English is called the book of Numbers, because of God's counting the Jewish people. Why does he count the Jewish people? It's a sign of affection and love. See how dear the Jewish people are to God. They are his legions, and he wishes to count them frequently, like one who constantly counts a precious treasure again and again to know how much it contains and experiences joy over it every time. God similarly would rejoice every time he recalled the number of the Jewish people, saying, "I have this number of legions in my world who carry out my will." God takes comfort in them. So the Jewish people are counted 3 times while the Jewish people are in the desert. Now, the tribe of Levi, right, was not included in the count, right? The tribe of Levi was counted separately. Why was the tribe of Levi counted separately? Well, first, I should actually point out that when the Jewish people were counted, they were counted from the age of 20 years and upwards. The tribe of Levi wasn't included in the count. They were counted separately. Why? Only the tribe of Levi you shall not number. The legion of the king deserves to be counted on its own. The tribe of Levi had a special role and responsibility amongst the Jewish people. They were kind of set apart and aside from the regular role of the Jewish people. They served in the Mishkan, they served in the Beis Hamikdash, therefore they deserved their own count. Another explanation: the Holy One, blessed be he, foresaw that a decree was destined to be enacted against all those who counted from 20 years and upward, condemning them to die in the desert. He said, "Let these not be included, for they are mine, since they did not err with the sin of the golden calf." The rest of the Jewish people were destined to die in the desert. However, the tribe of Levi, right, they did not participate in the sin of the golden calf. They were going to enter into the land of Israel, therefore they deserved to be counted separately. So the tribe of Levi was counted separately, and they were counted twice. They were counted from the age of 1 month old and onward, and then they were counted from the ages of 30 to 50. Now, why is that the case? Why are they counted separately and from such a young age? Now, if you look at the count of the rest of the Jewish people, the counting of the Israelites over 20 makes sense in the context of service. We weren't just getting the number of Jewish people, we're getting the number that were eligible to serve in the military. So counting from the age of 20 was very purposeful. When it came to counting the Levim, the Levites, from the age of 30, it also made sense in the context of service, because those from the ages of 30 to 50 were eligible to serve in the Mishkan. However, what service is there for the babies? How does it make any sense to begin counting the number of the tribe of Levites from 1 month and old? In addition to that, it actually provided quite a challenge for Moshe. How do you count little babies? We're actually told that there was a great miracle, that Moshe would stand outside of a tent, and due to modesty, he would not enter the tent to try to count the babies and the kids, and the voice of the Shekhinah would proclaim, the number of babies that were inside the tent. But why was all this necessary? Why did you have to count babies from 1 month old? There are various answers that are given. We're going to focus here on Rashi's explanation. Rashi writes, from the age of 1 month and upward, when he is no longer in the category of possible premature birth, he's counted among those called keepers of the holy charge. Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shalom, said, that tribe is accustomed to being accounted from the womb. As it says, whom she bore to Levi in Egypt, as she entered the gate of Egypt, Yocheved, Moshe's mother, was born. Yet Yocheved was counted as one of the 70 souls. For if you count their total, you find only 69. And it was she who completed the number. So the first thing Rashi says, that being counted from the age of 1 month is really only a technicality. Really, they should be counted from the moment that they're born. But because from the moment that they're born until the age of 30, we don't know for sure that the baby is going to survive. So we wait till 30 days, we wait till 1 month, then we know the child is going to survive, and that's when we count them. Now, however, Rashi mentions another interesting reason. Why do we count the tribe of Levi from the age of 1 month? Because the tribe of Levi is accustomed to being counted already from the moon. When do we see that? When Yaakov was traveling with his family from the land of Israel down to Egypt, the Torah tells us that there were 70 souls. However, doing the math, you only find the number 69. Where does the number 70 come from? Yocheved, who is the daughter of Levi, right? The father of the tribe of Levi. She was born as the Jews were crossing from the land of Israel into the land of Egypt. She was counted as the number 70. So therefore, we see that the tribe of Levi is accustomed already for being counted from the womb and are keepers of the holy charge. So the answer is, Rashi tells us that the story of Yocheved being born, completing the tally of 70 souls, the newborns are counted among those called keepers of the holy charge, but this only leads us to further questions. Question number 2. The Levites are called keepers of the holy charge. What exactly is this service? What does that mean that they're keepers of the holy charge? Doesn't that service begin at 30? Which is why there's a count of the tribe of Levi, a second count from the ages of 30 to 50. How, and secondly, how is the birth of Yocheved relevant? It's quite interesting that Yocheved was counted and she made the number of 70, but how is that relevant to the census of the tribe of Levi so many years later? And ultimately, what does that have to do with the fact that they were keepers of the holy charge? In order to answer these questions, we need to understand what exactly was the mission of the Levites. So go to text number 7, the book of Bamidbar, our Parsha. But you shall appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, over all of its vessels, and over all that belongs to it. They shall carry the tabernacle, and they shall minister to it, and they shall encamp around the tabernacle. When the tabernacle is set to travel, the Levites shall dismantle it, and when the tabernacle camps, the Levites shall erect it. Any outsider, non-Levite who approaches shall be put to death. The children of Israel shall encamp, each man by his own camp, and each man by his division. The Levites shall be encamped around the tabernacle of the testimony, so that there will be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of the testimony. And the children of Israel did according to all that God has commanded Moshe, thus did they do. So from these few verses, we see 3 jobs that were the responsibility of the tribe of Levi. Number 1, they were responsible for the tabernacle and all its utensils. They transported it and they put it together. So they built it and they dismantled the tabernacle between travels. And finally, they camped around the tabernacle for extra protection. Of these 3 jobs, which part of the Levite service might be a newborn be able to participate in? Again, they were responsible for the sacred articles in the tabernacle. They were responsible for transporting and constructing the tabernacle, and they were responsible for camping around the tabernacle. Which one could a newborn baby participate in? Of course, the answer is they were able to camp around the tabernacle. Let's see how the Rebbe discusses this in text number 9. Keepers of the holy charge refers to the fact that the Levites guarded the Mishkan so that no stranger would approach it. As the verse says, the Levites shall keep the charge of the Mishkan of the testimony. This was the purpose of the commandment. The Levites shall encamp around the Levites shall encamp around the Mishkan of the testimony. Therefore, the Levites can be called keepers of the holy charge already from 1 month of age and up. Because by camping, by simply being present around the Mishkan of the testimony, the newborn Levites are in fact keepers of the holy charge, even if they aren't yet ready for the work of actually guarding the Mishkan. So when it comes to serving in the military, that's the age of 20. When it comes to serving in the role of transporting the items of the Mishkan, that's the age of 30. But to be keepers of the holy charge, to be one who encamps around and surrounding the Mishkan, that can be done even from the moment of birth. So therefore, Levites are called the keepers of the charge from birth, but technically the count begins at the age of 30. So the service of living around the tabernacle was accomplished simply by existing. A count from 1 month of age was warranted, as even a 1-month-old baby from the tribe of Levi was a keeper of the holy charge. Now that we understand that the Levites were able to serve a critical and important function from the time that they're babies, we can understand the connection between Yocheved being counted from the womb and completing that number 70. Now, why was it important that the number 70 be completed? What would be so bad if the Jewish people go down to Egypt with the number 69? The answer is that the number 70 is very important in Jewish tradition. In addition to Moshe leading the Jewish people, there were 70 elders who led along with him. Jewish tradition tells us that the Torah has 70 different faces, 70 different styles of interpretation. There are 70 holy days throughout the entire year on the calendar. If you count all the days of Shabbos, together with Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, Shavuos, Yom Kippur, and so on, we get 70 days. We are told that there are 70 different names of God. And where does this all come from? What does this all correspond to? It corresponds to the idea that amongst the Gentile nations of the world, there are 70 nations. Where do these 70 nations come from? These are the offspring, these are the descendants, the children of Noah, who were dispersed around the world as the result of the Tower of Babel. Let's go to text number 11a. Until the dispersion of all the inhabitants of the earth spoke one language, Hebrew, the language used to create the world. Now that they had sinned, their languages were mixed up, and it ended up happening that the 70 branches of Noah's family were divided into 70 nations, each with its own language. And as we know, there are 70 spiritual ministers guiding the 70 nations below. Each spiritual minister is the basis for its particular nation and language. So there's an idea that the world is represented by 70 nations. Now, Yaakov and his family, when they descended from the land of Israel into the land of Egypt, they weren't simply going there because there was a famine and they needed food. This was also part of the mission of not just Yaakov and his family, but this is the mission of the Jewish people, to go out into the world and to purify and to uplift the 70 nations, to transform the 70 nations into holiness, into godliness, into spirituality, to bring the ethics and morality of the Torah to the world. The number 70 reflects the Jewish people as a complete nation who needed to go into the world and to transform and to elevate the 70 nations. We needed 70 against 70. in order to have the spiritual power and strength to compete with and to ultimately uplift the 70 nations of the world, we needed the number 70. So in order to be ready to contend with the range of forces that comprise the physical world, the number 70 was critical. Yaakov needed 70 souls. Rabbi Chia was sitting before Rabbi Shimon and said, why did the Torah see fit to count the sons of Jacob? As the verse states, all the souls of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt were 70. And why 70 and no more? Rabbi Shimon replied, the number 70 corresponds to the 70 nations of the world. The Jewish people were one nation facing all the rest. This makes it so significant that as the Jews were crossing into Egypt, Yocheved was born. Yes, she was only a baby, but she completed the number. She was counted. She was number 70. And now the Jews are able to fulfill their mission of reaching out into the world, even though she was only a baby. The Rebbe says, by mentioning the fact that all the souls of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt were 70, the Torah emphasizes their completeness. 70 reflects the completeness of the entire Jewish people. By bringing them to the number 70, Yocheved made the entire house of Jacob complete. So therefore, Rashi mentions this idea that it is significant that the tribe of Levi was counted from the age of 1 month old, because the Levites have this tradition all the way going back to Yocheved, that just by being born, you're able to contribute so meaningfully to the Jewish people. Yocheved, by being the number 70, allowing the Jewish people to begin their mission of transforming the 70 nations, and the tribe of Levi, already just being born at the age of 1 month, they can be keepers of the holy and the sacred. So just as Yocheved accomplished something so great by being born, the Levite children were guardians of the Mishkan on behalf of the Jewish people just by existing. As the Rebbe says, as Rashi states, the tribe is accustomed to being counted from the womb. Already from birth, they have the ability to effect completion in the entire house of Jacob. Therefore, they can already be counted from the age of 1 month, and they can also be called keepers of the holy charge, something necessary for the entire Jewish people. Now, what is the message for us? Now, you might say, listen, I'm not a Levi. I am not going to be counted, not from the age of 1 month, not from the age of 30. What relevance does this have to me? The answer is found in text 14, written beautifully by the Rambam. Not only the tribe of Levi is holy, rather it can be for anyone. Anyone in the world whose spirit generously motivates him and has the insight to set himself aside and stand before God to serve him and minister to him and to know God, proceeding justly as God made him, removing from his neck the yoke of the many reckonings that people seek, is sanctified as holy of holies. God will be his portion and heritage forever, and will provide what is sufficient for him in this world, like he provides for the priests and the Levites. What this means is, even if we are not biologically from the tribe of Levi, even if we are not born into the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Levi nevertheless could be our spiritual identity and our spiritual destiny. We could live our lives as a Levite, ready to serve God in any way, shape, or form that we can, to live a life of inspiration to others, of teaching, of guiding, of sharing, helping, and caring. To be a Levi means to serve. Now, a person is able to serve the Jewish community at different levels. We know that at the age of 12 for a girl, 13 for a boy, there's a bas mitzvah, there's a bar mitzvah. You are considered to be an adult, and already at that point in time, there is what you can do to help and benefit the community. But as you grow up and fully become an adult, you marry, you become part of a Jewish community, you're able to have a bigger and a broader influence on the community to the extent that you actually could become a leader within the Jewish community itself. But what about a child? Not just a child, what about a baby? What about a newborn? How does a newborn serve? How does a newborn act and function as a Levi, right, serving and inspiring and leading the Jewish people? The answer is that even a newborn can be a keeper of the holy charge. Because from the moment that a baby is born, they represent the future and the destiny of the Jewish people. And when a parent says Shema with their baby before they go to sleep, when a parent takes their baby and puts them under the talus and shul during the priestly blessing, this is not just an act of training for when they become older, but right now, at this very moment, they are the keepers of the holy charge. The Jewish people are most literally the future of the Jewish people. And it's from the moment that they're born, they're imbued with a sanctity and a holiness and should be immersed in Torah and mitzvahs because they absolutely are the keepers of the holy charge. They are what guarantee our future. This idea is so incredibly relevant to us now, during the holiday of Shavuos, where we are given the Torah, and it's the children who are the guarantors for the Torah. The Medrash tells us that Rabbi Meir said when the Jews stood before Sinai to receive the Torah, God said to them, I swear I will not give you the Torah unless you provide worthy guarantors who will assure that you will observe its laws. The Jews responded, Master of the world, our forefathers will be our guarantors. Your guarantors themselves require guarantors, God replied. Master of the world, the Jews exclaimed, our prophets will be our guarantors. I have grievances against them too, God replied. As the verse states, the shepherds have rebelled against me. God concluded, bring proper guarantors, and only then will I give you the Torah. They said our children will serve as guarantors. They truly are worthy guarantors, God replied. Because of them, I will give the Torah. We see from the story that it's not just that children are guarantors because in the future they will become adults. No, even as children, they possess the ability to keep, to guard, and protect the holiness of the Jewish people and the holiness of the Torah. And as babies, they are keepers of the sacred and are the guarantors for the Torah. God accepted the children as guarantors when giving the Torah. Jewish continuity starts with every child. We have to recognize and realize the preciousness and the value of Jewish children. We can't say, oh, they're kids, let them go and, they'll get their regular education, they'll get their secular education, they'll have a career, they'll have a family, and then they'll be able to get their Jewish education. Absolutely not. Jewish continuity starts with every child from the moment that they're born. We see how the Torah empowers them to be the keepers of the sacred, the keepers of the holy, and are the guarantors of the Torah. So we should do everything in our power, anything that we can, to help to ensure that every child receives the fullest possible Jewish education that they can. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a meaningful and inspiring holiday of Shavuos. I look forward to seeing you next week.